Hello and welcome to the ID Talk podcast. I am your host, Peter Counter, and I am the editor-in-chief of FindBiometrics, where we continue to cover the biometrics and identity industry's leading vertical market-focused events. Earlier this spring, our own Doug OGorden reported live from ISC West, which saw record-breaking attendance and had unprecedentedly high representation of biometric technology on its exhibition floor. The conference was so busy, in fact, that some booths were simply too crowded to conduct our normal show floor audio interviews, and that's why we are bringing you this post-show episode of ID Talk featuring Kevin Wilhelm, country manager for Sharry, which is a touchless access specialist that's aiming to make buildings friendlier. OGorden caught up with Wilhelm after the show, and they dug into the topics of mobile access and the big trends from ISC West, where Sharry showcased its white label app that supports multiple mobile credentials. They went on to discuss the importance of being mobile forward in today's hybrid world, and their conversation concluded with speculation as to what's next for biometrics in the enterprise. It's a fascinating conversation, so let's get right to it. Here is FindBiometrics' Doug OGorden in conversation with Sharry's Kevin Wilhelm, right here on ID Talk.
Hi, FindBiometrics listeners. Doug OGorden here. I am with Kevin Wilhelm, country manager for Sharry.
Correct, like the wine. Sharry like the wine.
Yeah, and we're doing a post ISC West interview because it was too crowded at the Sharry booth to do a video or an audio in person. Sharry, what you showed me was like a visitor management solution that had a ton of different integrations and a ton of different brands and logos. You're integrated with lots of people, and you make buildings friendlier. Tell us more about that.
So we're a company that is all around taking disparate systems and combining them to a single interface. So visitor management is one of our modules. Tenant engagement is one of our modules. So if you think about when you're in a building, how do you order food? How do you give feedback to your property management team? How do you open maintenance tickets? How do you communicate with other tenants in the building? We support that. And then we also support mobile access. So a lot of integration partners, the Genetec, Linnell's, S2, Software House of the world, we wrote integration of them not just to make the visitor management more effective, but to allow mobile access to exist within our platform. This means from when you pull into the parking garage and the license plate reader reads your license plate and lets you in, to when you go through the turnstiles, to when you go into the elevator, to when you go into your tenant space. Your mobile credential, or in the license plate case, your license plate credential, allows you to move between all of them with a single app interface.
What were the highlights of the show, and what were your takeaways, and what did you showcase? What was your premier product?
Attendance is the part that I think everyone was really happy about. It was a really great energy. We had so many really good conversations with manufacturer partners, integrator partners, and directors of security and end users. It was really refreshing to have that type of interaction. I mean, it's been a few years. Yeah, in terms of what we were exhibiting in terms of new highlights, it's all about bringing everything together. We're always having new integrations. We're all having new features. One of our big new features is the ability to support multiple mobile credentials within a single app. So if you have a building that has HID mobile, STID mobile, or Salto, or some combination of the above, you can utilize one app to support multiple credentials, whereas now you need to have maybe an STID app, you need to have a Salto app or an HID mobile app. Because we've written the mobile SDK integrations, we support all of them within our single application, which is all white labeled. So you'll never find a Sharry app. You'll find an app labeled for the enterprise client or the building.
Neat. Well, it's like one sandbox, I guess. Everybody plays in that same sandbox.
Exactly. We try to partner with companies that are API forward, SDK forward, and really want to work with partners like us to enhance their product in ways where maybe they don't have the developer interest or support time to go after.
Mm-hmm. And then how are mobile technologies simplifying visitor management procedures? Is it easier to manage access permissions when everything's integrated into a comprehensive security system?
Definitely. I mean, something we're seeing in our industry, and I think everyone is there's a need to be flexible and hybrid going forward. That goes from security staff to office staff to the HR staff. Everyone is moving between offices, in the office less. And being mobile forward means it's a lot easier for people to manage that type of functionality. So I had a conversation with a client the other day, and they told me one of the things they like about it is they can be on the train in the morning, and when their boss says, hey, I need you to invite someone now, they use their mobile application to send a guest pass, and it's out the door in, a couple of minutes to a couple of seconds even. And the visitor is able to easily walk through the front door like nothing ever happened. So being mobile first is a big part of supporting the hybrid flexible workplace, because people are going to be working everywhere, working different times, and people almost always have their phone on them. And it's pretty easy to open up an app and do something, as opposed to opening up a computer, connecting to a VPN, even cloud when it's a thick client where you have to open a computer, launch a client, things like that. By being mobile first, you really take a lot of that, challenge out.
I go to a lot of trade shows, and I think that's the theme across many industries is mobility.
Yep.
Edge and mobility are the two things that are 2022's prediction is, of what's coming true.
Yep.
We recently finished our massive year in review event. We do a research study every year. We're on our 20th year next year.
Wow.
So yeah, so that set the stage for this year in 2022. But what do you expect to be the biggest opportunities for biometrics and identity in the next 6-9 months? What do you see coming?
In terms of biometrics, it's all about being fast and flexible. We talked about it a little bit a second ago about mobile, in biometrics being touchless, biometrics increasing reliability, biometrics being more on the edge as opposed to server based, is going to push biometrics to being a much more viable solution for a wide variety of use cases. Identity is going to change in terms of what we know identity to be. Your identity at an enterprise site is not going to be just your access card that has your picture on it and your name. Your identity is going to be linked to so many different solutions within your day-to-day enterprise environment that it's going to really expand the way we look at integrations. I mean, we're looking very differently at solutions like Okta and Mobile Iron about, how we're going to really secure the identity from end to end, because that's what enterprise clients want. Is they want to know that when I enter Doug into the system, Doug is guaranteed to be Doug for every step of the process, from his single sign-on, his SAML, to his access control credential. I want to be 100% sure that Doug is Doug all the time.
I trust you. I'm Doug all the time. But there's zero trust in this world anymore. So we got to go with what we're pushing here, what we're selling, which I firmly believe that's the future. Well, cool. Well, what's the best way for our listeners to get a hold of you should they want to know more about Sharry?
Sure. They can send me an email. It's my first name, Kevin, Kevin, .Wilhelm, WILHELM, at Sharry, SHARRY, .tech, TECH.
Awesome. TECH. Don't forget
TECH.
that. .TECH.
Yep.
Not com.
Not com. No, we're tech.
TECH. Awesome. Well, hey, thanks, Kevin. That was a lot of fun, and have a great day.
Thanks so much, Doug. Really appreciate your time.
Talk to you soon.
And so concludes our interview with Kevin Wilhelm, Country Manager for Sharry. To learn more about the topics discussed in this episode, visit sharry.tech. And for more expert conversations about biometrics and digital ID, stay posted to FindBiometrics.com. I want to thank Kevin again for joining us on this episode, and thank you to Doug OGorden for conducting the interview. Our podcast theme music is by Logomrad. I have been your host, Peter Counter. Thank you for listening to the ID Talk Podcast.